All right, welcome everyone to the 89th Pearl of Wisdom. Those of you may know I've known Mynoo for, I don't know, 17 years, 16 years, something like that. I've lost count. And every time she presents something, it feels like it goes deeper and deeper. And today she's sharing the 7 pillars of embodied enlightenment. So embodied enlightenment, just that whole feeling of what that is, how you create them and work with it to integrate your power of enlightenment in everyday, day-to-day activities. So not only do we have the wisdom knowledge, but we are going to talk about how we can actually use it as a living prayer in our lives. So with that, I turn it over to Mynoo.
Hello, Dea. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you very much for hosting today. Catherine is on the sets, so she is she's here in spirit.
She is. She definitely.
So let's begin. Embodied enlightenment. So, the first thing that I felt it's important to look at is embodied.
Mynoo, wait, we can't hear you.
Okay, I was muted. Embodied Enlightenment, 89th Pearl of Wisdom. I was excited that it is in fact a pearl of wisdom. So the pearl of wisdom, the definition is that, if you only ever worked with that one pearl of wisdom, you literally can create a life and live it in such a way that it creates a world that delivers to everyone. So I was excited to see this occur. This is a journey that I've been on. I embarked on it in 2010. My quest was to experience this state of enlightenment in my body. And I thought that, I had retired in Bali and I could do bits and pieces of what I love doing. And that was embodied enlightenment. What I didn't realize was that my Mount Kailash, if you like, or my cave in which this enlightenment was to occur, is actually right in the middle of everything. And that is what embodied enlightenment is really about. You are able to operate from that frequency of enlightenment. And you're able to do it in your body, wherever you're at. There are, to actually be able to get to that first base of enlightened frequency, it takes certain experiences in your previous lives and stuff, and you come in with an enlightened frequency. The good news is, there's a whole generation of children that are being birthed, certainly since the last 6 years, actually, that already come with that frequency into this planet. So the opportunity for a very high proportion of humans very soon actually being able to operate in this embodied enlightened way is very high. And that in itself starts to transform the frequency of the planet. So all of that is really exciting. Embodied is about being able to carry that frequency in how you live your life day to day. Now, the interesting thing about this is that we are born with the foundation of enlightenment frequency, because at a soul level, the soul itself, embodies in its presence the enlightened frequency. So we have the foundation, because my question to myself was, well, surely I'm creating a foundation upon which I can live a life of embodied enlightenment. And my intuitive guidance was, no, what we're doing here is building the 7 pillars upon which you will create this home. this palace, which is where you will live in this state of embodied enlightenment. Hence, the 7 pillars are being built on the foundation of our soul presence, which already carries the enlightened frequency. Hence the 7 pillars. Now, whenever a building is being constructed, and this initial set of, pillars go up, it takes a while. It's like it requires a number of ingredients. So I'm going to talk to you about the pillars. The way you go about constructing your own pillars will actually be your choice and your decisions. The key thing is just know that this frequency of enlightenment already exists within you. And then let's look at each of the pillars. So the first pillar is completion to romance. Completion is really having, and it's like in the context of embodied enlightenment, the way you go about completing, it's like you get into a state of whole and completeness. It's about having all of its proper parts or components. Something is complete when it has all of its proper parts or components, and declaring it whole and complete in such a way that unmodified, it is whole and complete. And you can move forward or you can build from there. So here, in this context of completion, we go through different stages in our life. We have relationships with people. We have intimate relationships. We have a relationship to ourselves. And we just slide from one thing to the next to the next. What if you've made a conscious choice when you know that you've entered a different realm to have a completion, like a powerful completion of what has been up to this point in time? Now, there is a risk with that. The risk with that is that when you complete, you may be totally ready to move on. So when you're doing it in a relationship and you engage in completion, you really declare the good, the bad, the ugly, and the beautiful. You acknowledge all of that and you declare it complete. And then you make a choice whether you actually wish to co-create together the next phase of your life. And should you choose to, then you start co-creating together, as opposed to doing something just because you've done it that way. So you take nothing for granted. What I see here is these 7 pillars of embodied enlightenment have always been the 7 pillars of embodied enlightenment. I'm giving a structure and a set of words to them. However, they've always been there. But consciously, when we take this on, we take our mind along. We're talking about enlightenment in this body. The mind and the thoughts play a very important role in this. So taking your mind along is extremely important, and that gets achieved when you consciously enter the realm of completion. So for example, you're about to change your career, or you're about to just change a job, and you're going to another job. You go ahead and begin that job. Now, what if you, even if you did it just with yourself, in a very powerful way, completed everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the beautiful of the job that you are just leaving. And you do it as you leave it. It puts you in a state of an inner knowing and a trust that which is going to serve you as you move forward in your career, you will be able to take that forward. And you can begin the new job with a clearing as opposed to with a baggage that you might have carried with a collection of meaning you might have given to various things that occurred in the previous job. The same thing applies if you are, in fact, in an existing job, or you're handling a particular project and you're now changing your role in it. really important to complete. And complete equals have really acknowledging the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful, all of it, and declaring it complete. That's the process of completion is fueled by and is propelled by the tool of acknowledgement. So if you are doing this in a relationship, so for example, I'll give you an example. When my family, son, daughter-in-law, and the two grandkids were moving to Dubai, there was great excitement. And they're moving from Berlin to Dubai. I was super excited about it. And so were they. And yet, there was a big part, particularly for my daughter-in-law, there's a big part in her which was a little bit sad because she'd birthed her two children with her, in her hometown, in her birth town. Her parents were there. Her whole entire family was there. Yes, there was excitement, and there was a little bit of sadness there too. There's nothing wrong in that sadness, but it was a very powerful experience to just guide them to complete their time in Berlin. So they were able to say to each other, everything that was good, that was bad, that was ugly, that was beautiful about their time in Berlin. And they were also able to presence all the different experiences and feelings that they were having, like serious concern about her parents becoming older, will they be able to travel or not, and all that stuff. And some trepidation about going into a country that she'd never been before. So what happens there is, when you complete powerfully and you acknowledge, what does the tool of acknowledgement do? The tool of acknowledgement, when you acknowledge something that you don't want, it actually is like a weed killer and it destroys that which you don't want. When you acknowledge something that you do want, that you really love, it's like a perfectly targeted dose of the perfect nutrient that enables a very beautiful blossoming to occur, leading to full blooms. Now, the first pillar isn't only about completion. It is about completion to romance. Now here, we've done a whole Pearl of Wisdom on the 7 flares of romance. So you'll get lots more juicy stuff when you do a deep dive into romance. But let's just engage with the meaning of romance itself. It's a feeling of excitement and mystery, sort of associated with love. Romance in my world is a way of living your life. It's a lifestyle. It's not really it's by far, and it's not really an outdated concept at all. It is time-honored precept of merging with the divine. It is merging with the divine, and you manifest that divinity, within yourself and with another human being. The lifestyle itself is playful. It heralds springtime, flowers, new life. You don't have to be in partnership to evoke a romance lifestyle. You can manifest it for yourself through laughter, surrounding yourself with beauty, indulging in luxurious treats. Now, here's what happens. I go as far as saying that romance, just like we have a life force that gives us our vitality, romance is the life force of the universe itself. So the vibrancy and vitality of the universe as it supports you creates a regenerative, thriving experience of romance. Completion is an important precursor to experiencing that fullness of romance. So a number of times, I was doing an interview with someone who was doing a show on anxiety to awesomeness in young adults. And she asked me this question about, she was about to go abroad for further studies. And she's been in a relationship. She got into that relationship, and just as she was finishing secondary school, and now she's going to go to one part of the world, and the person she's relating to is going to go to another part of the world. And there's a lot of anxiety there, and the question was about moving from anxiety to awesomeness. And really, I brought it back to this pillar of completion, to romance. And really, my discussion with her was that it's, you are moving into a different terrain in which your relationship is going to progress. So by going there without completing the relationship as it has been, will basically mean both of you will go there with unsaid expectations that the relationship is somehow going to be similar to the way it has been. So very soon, you're going to start picking at each other because the other person is not behaving in the way they did before. Well, they can't. The terrain is shifted. And so can't you, because the terrain is shifted for you also. And yes, there is a risk that if you complete, and you may decide you're actually not going to co-create the next phase of your life and your relationship together. And if you don't, and it will be a very powerful, empowering completion to choose to go your separate paths. And if you choose to still stay together, then it will be a very powerful co-creation, acknowledging and taking into account what's actually going on around you. So they chose to complete. Many things came up. They realized that when they went from dating each other to actually having a relationship, they had many years of a lot of upset with each other. But because when you're dating is simply a schedule marked in your calendar, a date in your calendar. It doesn't become a relationship until you declare that you're now in a relationship and you're completing your dating period and you're now going to co-create a relationship together. But that was never done. So some of the magic that they had, that they used to look forward to when they were going to dates, had just fizzled out. So it took them a few years to then choose to actually come together and move forward. So my point here of saying this is, if romance, the excitement and mystery associated with love, the life force of the universe, if you wish that to be applied to your life force, to the life force in any relationship, completion is a must. And you don't have to necessarily only be completing with another person. There's a completion of your phase of life. Now, I know there are people here right now who've moved countries, and it's so easy to go from one place to another. I mean, I've moved homes, and I move, even when I travel, I am here in Pune right now, and I'll be leaving tomorrow night, and I'll be going to Bali. So one of the first things I'll do, even before I board the plane, is I'm going to have a powerful completion of my time here. Because I really want whatever the yumminess has been to provide that squirt of perfect nutrition for the blossoming of me realizing my soul's mission. And whatever it is that didn't serve me, I wish to just complete it, get it out of my system. I don't require to carry any baggage anymore, anywhere. And that allows me to just remain in the state of romance all the time. So with this young girl, they did go ahead and they completed their relationship as it has been up to this point in time. And in that completion, they realized that there was a lot of upset and trepidation and a lot of unsaid communication because she so wanted him to go to the same university that she was going, but it actually wasn't as good for the subjects that he had chosen. And so he wanted to go to the university that he did get selected in, and felt guilty completely and somewhat ashamed to even admit that that's really what he wanted to happen. So you can imagine, even before the two young adults have moved to their next phase of their life, one is carrying unsaid communications, so lots of unfulfilled expectations are already starting to multiply, and another one is laden with guilt and shame. So the chance of them continuing a long-distance relationship for a period of time was actually very small. And what has occurred is they've now been gone for, like just over a year. And it's been amazing for them. It's as if they're living this romance lifestyle. They had no idea what was possible and feasible. And they don't actually have to work it because it just flows, because they are in their flow. The completion enables you to be in that space. It is the first pillar to carry the enlightened frequencies in this body. Your soul, when it goes from one human form to another, when it goes from one galaxy to another, it is complete. It anchors its learnings and, acknowledges the quest it's on, and off it goes. And as a result, it's able to leave everything behind with no attachment whatsoever. It starts from, at a soul level, it begins with that same powerful, eternal, indestructible, unstoppable qualities and characteristics as it enters a new human form. Now that's the soul talk. You can do this for yourself because everything is energy anyway. This is the first pillar. The second pillar is knowing. And it's inner knowing to all knowing. Inner knowing it's a sense, it's like a feeling of multidimensionality through our thoughts, feelings, body sensations. It's like an intrinsic wisdom. We sometimes call it intuition. It's intrinsic wisdom that has come from our life experiences. We also use the term gut feeling. It is an inner navigator. So our inner knowing is an inner knowing that starts to develop when you start to live your life through your collection of experiences. Inner knowing also includes all the wisdom that has been amassed through your soul's various journeys. And the all-knowing is the innate knowingness of all that is around you. Really, that's what it is. You can call it the all-knowing being, the knowingness of God, but all that is around you is a presence of the energy that we can term as God. And the key thing about this pillar is to know that as you start living your life, you go through this journey every time, many times a day, many times an hour even. But certainly through your lifetime, many, many times you go through this journey where you're receiving impulses and inputs, which are data. And as you process them, they become information. And as you implement the information, you start to convert it into knowledge. And as you continue to implement it, you actually start discerning your own insights, connecting your own dots, and it becomes wisdom. And as you keep, operating from that state of wisdom, it becomes a knowing. A knowing is it's like it's just so. Now, the more you practice this in a conscious way, the faster your journey from data to knowing is. Now, the key thing is all data doesn't have to go into a knowing state. Some data is really all about, just be aware of this. And you don't have to act this way. And that's fine. So it varies, but just know you're going through this all the time. So even the conversation that we are having right now, and I'm calling it a conversation, even though I am the one transmitting, it's like a one-way thing, but you are receiving and processing it as I'm speaking to you. You're connecting certain dots. So the data to information is happening, even as I talk. And you could leave it there. You could say, oh, that's great. Lots of ahas. For it to actually become knowledge that you can build on and act from, it calls for you implementing the information you received. And then the extent to which you want that to become an innate wisdom that you carry with you, to that extent, you will implement it with conscious presence and awareness. So the knowing journey is that, and we are born with a chunk of that based on our soul's journeys. So there was a point in my life in Bali, I think it was 2013. So 2010 is when I consciously embarked on this journey. And I declared it was about embodied enlightenment. I didn't know what that meant at all. It literally just came from within me. I wasn't being smart or anything. I hadn't even read about it. My mother asked me when she heard me read some of my writings when I first came back from Bali, and she said, wow, if you were to ask God for anything right now, what would you ask? And I said, embodied enlightenment. And she said, okay, you know what that, do you realize what that entails? It means you will be living your life as an observer. And then a part of me said, well, I don't really want to sit there observing life. I want to be engaged in it. And her response to me was, being an observer, living your life is the most engaged form of living your life. Now, at that point, it was like, okay, whatever. But this journey of data to knowing is a journey of an observer. So even as an observer, I observe that there is some data that is coming at me. And I can get myself into an alertness where I'm actually going to process that data that's coming in the context of where I'm at. And it starts to become converted into information straight away. And then it's like at that point, I'm going to decide whether I'm going to do anything with it or not. Observer still. So I'm observing. And then I'm observing that the consequence of me converting this information into action, then that spurs my choice, whether I choose that consequence or I don't. If I choose that consequence, I go into action. And then I'm observing me acting as per this information that I have gotten. I'm observing and distilling and discerning in that observation the wisdom that is arising from this. Doesn't mean I'm just sitting there and doing it. I'm just sitting there and observing. I'm actually really engaged in this. And then I'm observing what have I learned from this implementation so that I can go ahead and choose whether I wish to continue implementing it. And that's how it starts to convert into knowing. It is true, living a life as an observer is the most engaged form of living a life. I mean, there's a very interesting example of what I observed very recently, right? So I was in Dubai for Christmas, New Year, just for those few days. And on New Year's Day, everybody was asleep, but the kids wake up, they just wake up. So I decided to take the younger one to the playground by myself. So we go to the playground. I mean, this is our Zen handsome charmer is the meaning of his name, Emilio. So we go there, and he wants to climb the slides. Now, this kid is he's about 1 year and 8 months or so, right? So he's not yet 2. So I said, okay, fine. There are little slides. I go towards that. No. He actually wants to climb the highest slide that's there. And he wants to climb it from the sliding area. So he wants me to hold his hand. And I thought, okay, there's nobody else in the playground. I'm very much here. So I hold his hand and we're climbing up. And I'm like, okay, that's enough. Now just turn around, because now he's going beyond where my hands can hold him, and he turns around and then he slides down. And this time he's still wanting to hold my hands. Now, the interesting thing is, you see how much observation is going on here in me. But how much observation is going on in the mind of this kid? Because he goes a third of the way. Then the next climb is half the way. The climb after that is 2/3 of the way. And then the climb after that is like literally 4 climbs, and he's on the top, going in from the sliding area. It wouldn't have happened if this child wasn't observing what he's experiencing and auto-correcting himself as he's going up. For the longest time, I've not experienced fear. Fear to me opens a doorway to miracles. So I just go into the realm of miracles. And when Emilio goes all the way to the top and he's standing at the top and I'm right down there, I'm thinking, oh my God, I can't even climb up this slide. But he had observed himself so acutely, that I just said, okay, I'm feeling the fear. I acknowledge it. I open the doorway, enter the realm of miracles. Come on down, Emilio. And off he comes. And we did this many, many times. But this is literally an example of data to information, to knowledge, to wisdom. And of course, now the kid has the knowing of how to do it for himself. The exciting thing about when you look at it as a pillar of enlightenment, remember, it's all about regenerative, and we have a foundation of regenerative right now. Regenerative basically means you engage in something and you engage with it in such a way that once you're done with it, it starts to regenerate itself and you can focus your attention on the next piece. And that is what is enabled here. When you consciously, in a concerted way, go through this journey of data to information, to knowledge, to wisdom, to knowing, that's exactly what occurs. Let's look at the third pillar. The other thing to remember, like even if you were to look at a building, and there you are building the master pillars on which this building is going to stand, you have to keep maintaining them. You keep your finger on that pulse. So when you are talking about embodied enlightenment, and that's why this is a challenging one. When I said to my mother that this, what I seek for myself, if I was to ask one thing, I would say embodied enlightenment. And she said, so many saints asked for that. And really, they got it, but only after they left or at the time of their samadhi, at the time that they were departing. So, just be aware that you're going to live your life as an observer, and as an observer moment by moment. In your body, so many things occur. If you're consciously going through the journey of data to knowing, then you actually start living a regenerative lifestyle where you don't have to keep repeating the same old mistakes over and over again. The third is co-creation. The pillar of co-creation, and really what I got was co-creation of sensory intimacy. Intimacy, again, we've done a Pearl of Wisdom on that, which is into me, you see. Sensory is really referring to your sensory system, the system with your sensory organs. And intimacy, for those of you who want to go and watch it again, is the 43rd Pearl of Wisdom, which you can go on my YouTube and watch it. Now, co-creation itself, let's look at co-creation itself. It refers to a product or a service design process, right? It's a design process of a product or a service where inputs from the end consumers also plays a central role, a pivotal role. Who are the end consumers of you living your life? You know, you are an end consumer, and there may be others who are important to you, who may also be end consumers of what occurs. In a relationship, who are the end consumers of how this relationship evolves? So co-creation becomes a way of designing what is to occur right from the beginning. To be in the beginning, you have to have completed and be in a clearing. If you attempt to co-create a relationship where you've been in that relationship for a long time, be it with friends, be it with projects, be it with colleagues, be it with, an intimate loved one, if you haven't completed, that co-creation will keep coming up with an already always perception of how the other person operates. For co-creation to really truly be powerful and deliver in a regenerative way, that pillar of completion is important. So to understand, when you enter the realm of co-creation, you're in the realm of a product or a service or an experience design process in which the inputs from the end consumers of this co-creation plays a central role right from the beginning. So with this young adult who asked me about how do they deal with the fact that they're both going to different parts of the world to pursue their education, what happens to their relationship now? They were both end consumers of how this relationship was going to turn out. Each one of them creating their own strategies wasn't actually going to deliver a regenerative relationship. So a completion was necessary. Now, here's the other part in this. It's got three parts: co-creation, sensory, and intimacy. The sensory part is working with your sensory organs. They are organs: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin. And they are sensory. So they're not just about function. They perform a function, but they are also sensory organs. So as you enter the realm of co-creation, and you are really looking at the inputs being given to you, you use your sensory organs to sense into what is actually being communicated here, what is actually being shown to you. I'm seeing this, but what is actually being shown to you? What is that underlying flavor of what's being said? What's that inner feeling that I'm having, that I'm experiencing from where I am right now? All of those pieces play a very important role in co-creation becoming a romantic process. A process that results in putting you in a place where you are centered, you are strong, and you have the courage to open the doorway, really declaring, into me you see. It gets you to be so comfortable in your own presence. And that way, you observe what is going on, but you don't give over your power to anything else. You don't just go into, okay, I had to do this. I needed to. In the realm of co-creation, there is no had to, there is no need to. You co-create as a function of your choice. The fourth pillar is the miracle lens and magnificence. The miracle lens, is the lens I first introduced in 2019 to people outside of me. I got introduced to it in 2010. So I had a lot of experience of working with this, and it really is a lens that shows you in any moment what is making your heart sing. The fact that your heart is beating, that is the song of the heart. Regardless of whatever may be going on in your life, your heart is singing. Because if it's beating, it's singing. So what is it singing about? Miracle Lens allows you to acknowledge that. Magnificence itself is one of the filters that you put into your lens. And it comes from a premise that we are all magnificent beings in human disguise. We all have the same level of magnificence. If there are any fractures, they're only there in the way we choose to engage with the human disguise. At any point in time, you can literally just embrace the fractures in the human disguise, and you will go past the disguise, and the place that exists, the space that exists past the fractured human disguise is a clearing of magnificence. Magnificence is a state of being beautiful, deserving to be admired. There's a splendor in it. And there's a splendor that boosts you visually, emotionally. So when you engage with magnificence filter, combined with the miracle lens, and you go into it and you look at, here's something that has been taking up a lot of my energy. It could be a person, it could be a project, it could be a belief, that is being propagated. It could be a news item even. There is something there, given that it's taking up so much of your energy, there is some magnificence in there that is yours to have. And you just simply go past the fractures in your own human disguise that are often linked to judgments and evaluations you may have about a particular situation. And you're able to go in and immediately distill. What are these moments of splendor? What's beautiful in here that is actually being shown to me, that is deserving to be admired, that is mine to have and keep? So when we did the work, and I know that there are several of you who are from the business collective here, who've participated in the first in-person retreat we did in Rishikesh, where we used the miracle lens, and I taught you to work with the magnificence filter. And you literally took some very difficult situations, very difficult relationships, and in using the magnificence filter, you went past the fractured human disguise, and you were present to the magnificence of this person. The only reason something stays in your field, it may be as an afterthought or it may be as a relationship that is taking up your time and energy, is because it is holding certain elements of magnificence that you are meant to have, and it will serve you to live the calling of your soul. So when you realize that there are certain pieces that seem to be just niggling away And you can't get rid of them. Well, you won't until you grasp their magnificence and you take it. And then that situation will dissolve itself, or that relationship will transform. So work with this. This is a very powerful pillar. And remember, we're talking about the 7 pillars upon which this enlightened palace of yours is being built. And it is truly a palace of extraordinary miracles. So you keep making sure that the pillars are properly refurbished ongoingly. Just have to build them once. They're already standing on a very strong foundation of the enlightened frequency of your soul presence. The fifth pillar is illuminating. Illuminating, we've just only recently done a whole Pearl of Wisdom on illuminating. We are in the year of illumination. And I think that's the reason why, even though embodied enlightenment is something I have engaged in since 2010, it is only now, this year, that I'm guided to share it as a Pearl of Wisdom, because it is the year of illumination. Illuminating is educational, and it's informational. It's also instructional. So when you get insights that are instructive. That's what occurs in illuminating. So as you are going through these pillars, if we just take the magnificence pillar, I'll give you an example. There's someone I was doing a journey into miracles with, and it was actually a one-to-one private journey that I was doing with her, which I do very, very rarely, only where someone has got a very big agenda for the planet, and they're ready to take it on. So there I was doing this work with her, introduced her to the miracle lens, introduced her to the magnificence filter. And we made a whole list of people that she had a very strong charge about, and there was one, an upcoming presidency that a lot of the United States, a lot of people are very anxious about. And so was she, like really anxious that, oh God, if this person becomes a president, it's just all doom and gloom. So sure enough, we applied the magnificence filter to certain, close relationships, like her parents, her sister, and on, her best friend and stuff. And she got lots of collection of magnificences that she took over and received. And then there was this one, which is really stopping her to such an extent that she'd left the United States and was living in another part of the world, and was very sad that if this person becomes a president, she just would never come back. So she was quite sad about that. But the charge was so strong. So I said, okay, the fact that this person who is not even the president yet, but this person is causing you to expend so much of your vital life force, it's worth looking at this whole situation with the miracle lens and a magnificence filter. So sure enough, she acknowledged what's making her heart sing, despite all the anxieties that she was experiencing in that moment. And then that got her ready to put the magnificence filter and look past the fractured human disguise of this presidential candidate. And as she went past it, and she entered the realm in the clearing of his magnificence, and she just started speaking. This was like she had no idea what she was saying. I was writing it down, and it was quite visual for her what she saw. And the scale of transformation that this person's soul had signed up for at a global level was quite humongous. And he was doing it in the only way that his soul knew would mobilize and activate the world and get humans reconnected to being a choice in their matters. really expressing and exercising their choices. She went in and she just shared all of that. And then when she came out of it, of course, the charge was completely gone. And she realized that she doesn't always express and exercise her choice. She doesn't always relate to people as humans who are the frequency of love. And there are many such things that she discovered in that clearing of magnificence of this person. She was able to go past that very murky, hellish place, which was full of evidences that were showing how fractured this person was. But at a magnificence level, he signed up for this agenda of really reawakening humans and humanity to choice, expressing and exercising their choice. And it completely transformed her, the next phase of her life. And she did go back to the US, and because it was like a very big part of her that was so unrequited that she felt she was having to compromise about. And then she absolutely didn't. Now, I'm connecting that to illumination. Illumination is insights that are instructive. She got those insights. And the instructiveness there was that, well, I don't always express and exercise my choice. And it's time I'm awakened to everything is a choice that I make. And I'm always only choosing for me. So this whole dialoguing about I have to, I need to, is like not necessary. Doesn't occur that way. That was the instruction that she took for herself. And the next phase of her life is completely, in line with what she signed up as a soul being and what she signed up to be her calling. It's very surprising. She would never have predicted that she would be doing what she's doing now. Wouldn't have occurred if we hadn't gone through this. The sixth one, very conscious of the time, the sixth pillar is body's own intelligence. Our body has its own intelligence, right? I'm talking about the physical body here. Our physical body has its own intelligence. You've all heard me talk about, my experience of doing the ice bath, or standing on a bed of nails or walking on a sheet of broken glass and stuff. And I'm like blown away with how that even occurred. And I remember somebody saying to me, why do you do this to yourself? I said, well, seriously, I wasn't hurt. Nothing hurt me. I did it. So it's not that I was doing anything to myself, I was really reconnecting to the truth of my body's own intelligence. And we do have the three brains. Many of you who do my Beyond meditation or who've done my work, you've heard me say, we have the mind, the mind brain, the heart brain, and the gut brain. The mind really is all about survival. And the way it handles survival is being vigilant about spatial awareness and making sure that you're always in a space where you will survive. The monkeyness comes in from thoughts. But because the mind is about survival, the thoughts are applied to survival. And when thought links to survival, it's all about past and future. There is no now. And hence the thoughts, combined with the mind becomes the monkey brain, meaning is what we give it. There's a very good reason why that occurs. And it's great that we have that because it allows us to entertain ourselves. It allows us to, bring a bit of variety and spice into how we choose to live our life. It brings a lot of living, which is really a function of choices. Heart, on the other hand, is about presence. It's about presence, and it's about presencing the now. And it is about your presence in the now. The heart is a connection to the moment. So you are never disconnected from the moment. The gut, on the other hand, is your inner knowing. That is a collection of inner knowing that you have assimilated from your experiences and inner knowing that you are born with as the wisdom of from your soul's journeys. And it is the gut that delivers the thriving instinct. Every organ has its originating intent. And what happens is, based on our choices, we create blockers or loaders. So if an organ is loaded, then it's very difficult for it to return to its own intelligence, to recorrect itself. If we have got various blocks, and there may be mental blocks, energetic blocks, physical blocks, then again, it's difficult for the body's own intelligence to be able to activate itself fully. So the whole journey, when you work with this pillar, is all about release, and resurrection is guaranteed. You just focus on the release part. Come from a state of knowing of your body's own intelligence. Your body is made up of trillions of cells. When I say your body's own intelligence, every cell has its own intelligence. And so each cell multiplied several trillion times, you are a humongously present, intelligent being. Anything is possible for you. It's your choice. Enlightenment, you are born with, it's a foundation. Experiencing that in your body is what gives you that unleashment, where you can be your soul presence with every breath you take. And you can choose to thoroughly enjoy and savor every moment that you're going through. Transforming your vibrations in such a way that at a level of purity, you're able to realize all of your rockets of desires. The seventh pillar is transcendence, a very important pillar, being able to go beyond normal limits or boundaries. Even me sitting and having an ice bath, I still will think 100 times before I go and do it again, right? At that point, I chose to do it. I haven't become a big fan of it, but the experience was phenomenal. But it did take me physically beyond normal limits or boundaries. It is available to do this all the time. What is this mothering instinct that we have? Doesn't matter whether you have a child or not, it's there. And many of us had the opportunity, men and women, to exercise that mothering instinct during the Corona times. We are naturally equipped to transcend, go beyond normal limits or boundaries. That is one of the pillars of embodied enlightenment. And it's always, with this one, I like to begin with, where have you actually done it? So that your mind goes along with you. When you really go and turn the level up of transcendence experiences that you might engage with. These are the 7 pillars of embodied enlightenment, something that is available to all of us. And I bring it back to you, Dea, to complete our session.
Oh my goodness, Mynoo, that was, I would say, deeply nourishing body of wisdom. And there was so much in there and so much for us to play with. And my transcendent moment was skydiving. I just thought of one. It was way beyond anything I thought I would ever do. And when I did it, it unleashed a whole huge energetic feeling of I can do anything here, that feeling, that choice feeling that we can choose in each moment. So I don't know. It's going to be so good to go through these 7 pillars. The completion romance was so powerful too, leaving it behind, and wow. So I thank you. We all thank you. We are so blessed to have you deliver these wisdom teachings to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Namaste.